Why are you trying so hard to fit in where you clearly don't belong? Get a chair. Let's talk. Students, get your pens and paper out. We are having a biology class today. And let's start with the definition of a habitat. A habitat is the natural environment where an organism lives, grows, and thrives. That habitat provides the necessary resources like food, shelter, water, and a place for survival. So a habitat can be as big as a rainforest or as small as a rock crevice. Episode 704, I was in the middle of the rat race.
And I decided I want a proper job. I want to work. And I applied for a job at Capital FM.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a job as the events manager.
What?
Yes. But I have to say that corporate experience taught me a lot. It taught me responsibility. It taught me structure. And it taught me to understand what happens on the corporate side as an artist. Was I really good at my job? Well, I tried. I really tried. And it didn't really work out very well. When there was a shake-up at Capitol, I knew, hey,
niko ndani ya hiyo mix.
Mimi hapa vile watu wanaenda, hata mimi kuna vile nitaenda. And I remember at that point in time I could see, you could see that you're struggling with the job. And I was sort of feeling like I could see the rest of the artists, what was happening with them. Nameless was still performing, you're still getting gigs, you're still doing his thing. And I'm in the corporate culture and I'm like, I don't like this.
Yep.
And I've come from making, whatever I was making at the end of the month at Capitol, I used to make in 2 days.
When you taste that comes from artistry, it's so difficult.
Iyo pesa usanii.
And then the thing is, it comes expense free. You're picked up, you're dropped, your food is paid, it's just net.
Hii ingine, it was not a 9 to 5, it was 9 to 11. 9 to 11. And I remember several times I was like, I'm going to leave. I can't do this.
Studies show that there are approximately 7.8 million different species of animals out there, and only 1.2 million of those have been documented by scientists. That means there are 6.6 million species of animals that me and you will never see. To put it into perspective, if it wasn't for the media, social media, photography, and travel, none of us here in Africa would have known about the existence of pandas and kangaroos because they are not available for us here. So we are all limited to our exposure, our perspectives, what we know and what we've interacted with. In the context of this story, many millennial parents or the parents to millennials had not interacted profitably with the creative economy. It was just an itch that needed to be scratched, but it could not keep a home. It could not give you a future. So the suggestion of you pursuing music or any other artsy kind of stuff was often received with a lot of resistance. And so many millennial creatives did their best to try and fit in, try to follow corporate culture and, climb up the corporate ladder. But it doesn't change the fact that this was not their natural habitat. So what happens when an animal leaves its natural habitat? Some of them die, while others adapt and migrate.
And of course, that whole thing of not wanting to be there, it impacted my job.
Yep.
So I got fired. But even then, I was like, okay, you beat me to it because I was actually going to leave. And I thought, okay, this would be automatic. You see, I'd come from Ninanoki, Tahidi, Ninanoki, talk to you. I'd bought time. Things were going on pretty fast, But then now still, I hadn't found my sound. And we were still struggling.
Because you have time even now with this corporate job.
So I've stopped corporate job. And then my parents are like, you'd better look for another job. And I started looking for another job. I started applying. But my heart is like, I want to do this music thing. And the more I'm thinking about doing this music thing, Lucas is like, no, we're not yet there. And I'm like, my goodness, I don't have time. I just don't have time. My parents are putting pressure on me.
So now you call Tony.
Get a job. So I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can be an apprentice for Tony. And Tony already knew that, I'm an artist and everything. I have a bit of writing ability. So I was there as a copywriter.
Amani's redemption story is yet to happen, but we can learn a lot from what she decides to do as she waits to go back to her home. In that place where you stick out like a piece of meat in an ocean of Kikuyu stew, you either break or adapt. For example, in the movie Tarzan, Jane comes and encounters Tarzan, who's been raised by monkeys and baboons, and she's in the middle of the jungle. She could choose to remain the pretty little princess that she is, or she had to learn in order to survive. And I know she'd rather be home with her warm bed and whatever it is she has going on for herself, but this is where she found herself. She might as well make the most of it. So Jane learns, she even changes her attire, she starts swinging on trees, she gets a husband.
My brother, let me tell you something. Your type is not my type.
No, but
your type is not my type.
We listen and we don't judge. Remember the definition of a habitat. It's where an organism lives, grows, and thrives. So it's not uncommon for us to be taken out of those spaces where we live, grow, and thrive. But remember the survival of the fittest. It's the creature that is quick to adapt to change that survives. So let me know, even as you wait to go back home to your natural habitat, what steps are you taking to adapt, to grow, to thrive in this new place where you find yourself currently?
There's something about a creative knowing their home. You know that thing, E.T. go home.
Yeah.
It's like for creatives, you're being called back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Did you feel that when you were there?
Yes, I'm like, this is nice being a creative. It's good. You know, it's working. It's good writing as a copywriter, but I've tasted that. You know, and it's good. And I'm like, I'm going back there. And I remember telling Tony, I'm going to get back to music. I'm going to get back. And then when I was at Canada, I think I was very determined more than ever to get back and everything. I kept writing. Then when I was at Canada, I wrote a lot. I was so motivated to write. And I just kept writing. I kept writing and I started thinking about who is Amani? What does she look like? What does she sing like? What is her persona? What is her stage persona going to be like? What are her songs going to sound like? Now that I was learning about branding, I applied it. I now started visualizing and creating the brand Amani. I was just not being an artist. Down to even when I was releasing Bad Boy, I had been to sets. When they were doing sets during advertising shoots, I made sure that Bad Boy had a set. I had outfits. From then on, it was calculated.
Okay. Is Bad Boy then becomes the next single?
Yes.
Okay, let's enter that because that one